everyone, this is 𝗦𝗂𝗧𝗓. I'm the founder and CEO of PCDN Global. We're a hub that connects the world of change makers to careers and opportunities of impact. So I'll say part of it came from that undergraduate experience at class I had. A big part came because I lived in Central Eastern Europe on and off for almost a total of 6 years. And one of the things I noticed in that region, both living, working, studying, is that, and this is pre-internet, email had just started to come out, is that basically there was no equal access to information and opportunity. So one of the things and the US has so many problems, but one of the good things about the US is, and we're not a meritocracy, but there is kind of access to information. And what I noticed back then, particularly because we were coming out of closed societies, a lot of them is that, let's say, Renelin, if you had an opportunity, you might keep it for yourself with your 3 closest friends, but you wouldn't disseminate it. And so one of the things I just saw living there is that people just didn't have access to equal opportunity and the information. So when I moved back to the US, and I think when I started working at IREX, I just started like an informal listserv on Yahoo groups of just like sharing information, and it just kept growing and growing. So it's really that desire to help people have, and I would waste hours of my day doing it, or an hour. There was no monetary, it's just something I'm a compulsive information sharer. Even like pre-internet, in my hippie major, I used to write newsletters and like to try to organize people. So it was really that fundamental belief that everybody should have. There's the saying that talent is universally distributed, opportunity is not, and it's also information is not. So talent is everywhere, opportunity is not equal, but at least people should have equal access to information to access the opportunities. And then I would say PCN, because the internet has grown so much, it's no longer that people don't have access to information. Now there's more information than ever. So now it's like curating the right information and helping people figure out how to access the opportunities. And a big part of PCN just came about both being a professor and consultant and trainer all over the world. I just seen so many people, they might hear about something, but they're not going to apply for it. And they aren't given the support and skills and training to know how to message their careers and experience to make them competitive candidates. And part of that is, let's say people need to understand like how the system works. Part of it is, again, there's still a lack of access to information, but a big part of it is people, they just don't have the professional networks and peer networks that mentor them. Like I've talked about mentors, like all my whole career, like I've had so many great mentors. I've never asked someone to be a mentor, but it's like people have just given me the right guidance at the right time. Like for the Fulbright Fellowship, or when I worked at an organization, one of my mentors said they're going to overwork you and underpay you, but you need to do this to get like grants management experience. Or like for my PhD, so like the mentorship without any strings attached has been so important to me. And everybody has mentors and peers, but they don't always have these kind of way to access them and to advance their career. So the big thing we try to do at PCN is not just provide access to information, but help people figure out how to use that opportunity to advance their careers and social impact. And people who are fortunate to go to Georgetown or Oxford or Harvard or Central University, really top tier universities in a lot of countries have good mentorship or alumni networks or career centers, but a lot of places don't. And I talk to so many people from all over the world. Maybe they do a great degree, but there's no mentorship, and there's no professional development, there's no career development, there's no formal alumni network. And if some people can create on their own, but we're trying to create that peer community where people feel supported about asking both important and even what some people consider silly questions, to then like what Catalina, my wife and partner, says is like, we're not saving lives. Like, we have friends who do humanitarian work, have been kidnapped, shot, who are doing like the most incredible, like we don't do anything like that, but we try to help people who are doing like the front line and helping work to figure out how to advance their impact, which hopefully then magnifies like a greater social change. I did this as a volunteer, just because like 100% transparency, Catalina, she used to be like, why are you wasting your time doing this? Because I would spend like an hour or 2 a day on top of everything else. And she's like, I don't understand this. And then eventually like we put on some Google ads, so we made a little bit of money to cover costs. But it's like, I think for a founder, and it's not 100% true, but I think particularly for founders in social impact, you need to have like a driving urge to help address a problem to sustain yourself. And so, I mean, you can be profit motivated, you can be curious, but unless you have that driving passion, it's really hard. That's solving a problem. Like, it's really hard to sustain. So I'd say for me, the challenges have been finding time, quitting stability to do something. Like, I ran the numbers a million times, but to like have to quit stability and benefits, you know, being part of one of the best universities in the world. I mean, I still teach, but to lose all that by choice, to take a huge risk, it's terrifying. There's been lots of sleepless nights because there's like, when you do your own thing, there's no security. So how do you pay the bills? And then to have a sustainable business model, but then also to be open to continuous learning. Like, sometimes I've gotten stuck, you know, and that's why it's good to have partners to kind of be like, what about this, and challenge you. And then just like having a stable, but like we're stable, but the 100% transparency in the US, we probably couldn't sustain ourselves. That's part of the reason we left the US. There's a health insurance. So it's like, now I think we're fine. We don't have any, like, we're not making a lot of money. We call ourselves a slow up. We're neither scaling or failing, but our impact is growing. But in the US, we probably would have double or triple our revenue or get a regular job. And then as founders, and also Catalina, is like, it's like hard to turn off. So that's like, there's always something to do. And particularly if you work with your partner, it's like, how do you have a work-life balance is something. And then, you know, a lot of founders, like, you can't do everything. So how do you prioritize? And then, you know, how do you build a product that benefit, but also sustain a revenue that's ethical? I mean, there's millions of challenges, but I'd say the best thing about quitting, you know, and we're surviving, is that like my brain and my skills have expanded radically because I'm always learning. Like, and as a professor, I was always learning, but I was kind of learning in my field. And now, like, I'm learning graphic design and venture investing. Like, so I just don't stop learning. And I think as a founder, like, that's one of the best things, but it's also hard to delegate. I mean, I can go on forever. Like, there's so many challenges. And again, you know, there's been anxious, sleepless, frustrating, you know, almost had mental breakdown times, because it's like, it is not easy. You gotta be kind of crazy, but also brave. But also you shouldn't take stupid risks. But like, it's not all glamorous and wonderful. Like, I wouldn't change it one bit, but it's like, too many people think I'm gonna build my startup that's focused on social impact, and it's going to be easy and all this money's going to come in, I'm going to change the world. Like, that is just not the case. So I actually went to therapy. That's helpful. Like, you know, so I think, and that helped, and meditating and just like taking care of yourself, you know. So I think part of it is like, whether you're in humanitarian social impact, is taking care of yourself, whatever that means. And, you know, a few brave, I mean, there's a great founder, you know, investor, Brad Feld, who talks a lot about mental health and startups. So there was a recent episode of him being interviewed by Tim Ferriss, which was just mind blowing, because he's like, here's like the truth. So I think just being 100% honest on that stuff, and that not everybody needs, you know, therapy or things, but everybody needs to figure out what works for them. And then Catalina helped a lot. And then, you know, just having a community to kind of run things by. And then obviously we had some money in the bank. So like, if we failed, like, you know, I don't recommend quitting your job if you don't have a backup plan, or at least some security, a few months. So like, I knew we weren't going to be homeless immediately, and I could always get a job. I just didn't want to, you know. And then like Catalina, we challenge each other. We have totally different working styles, but that's we fight, but it's also really useful. So having like a partner, and we have other people who help us. We have, you know, I mean, great. We have like, I mean, I've been on a lot of boards and advisory boards. So I won't say which person, but I'm on an advisory board of someone like 15 years younger than me. And every once in a while, like, he'll ask me advice, but sometimes I just call him and be like, what do you do in this situation? You know, so it's like having those peers that you can just call and be like, I don't know what to do. Like, what do you do? Career paths are changing so rapidly, and the skills and actually the jobs themselves and the whole nature of employment, that, and a lot of training institutions, not Amani, but a lot of institutions are behind. They're training people for the careers of last century and not this century. So So I think that's, so we're doing a lot of exploration of that. And so I'd say there's 4 things. First of all, like one of the problems I see with change makers, particularly aspiring change makers, is people are motivated by a passion to do good, which is wonderful. And they see problems that often they've experienced, but they don't understand the business of change. And so I see this consistently, not everybody. So they're like, I want to do X, but they don't understand, like, I'm not talking about nonprofit or for-profit or social enterprise. They just don't understand, like, there's an ecosystem, and there's all these places to get money, and there's all these crazy dances, and there's all these funders and all these investors. And so they detach themselves from that system of change. And if they don't understand, like, the business of change, like why an investor would invest in you, or a donor would give you a grant, or a customer would buy your product, then it's really hard to succeed. And so I see that consistently. And then connected to that is I see a lot of people don't explore the market of both, like, I mean, a really good example is, like, so if you want to be a mediator, which is a great skill to have, I know so many people want to be mediators. So they think, I'm going to get trained, I'll do a master's degree, get certified in mediation, and I'm going to have a career as a mediator. The supply side of, like, mediators, like people who want to mediate in a lot of countries like this, the demand side of who's willing to pay is like this. So a lot of people make career choices based on their aspiration or what they think their purpose is, but they don't connect it to, like, where the economics or the market's going. So, and in terms of the skills, so one is that solid business knowledge of how to operate in the business of change, how to run projects, whatever format you're in, how to get money, how to market, how to sell, how to admin. So the business of change is, like, one of the most important skill sets. And you can be an expert in finance, an expert in marketing, an expert in design, an expert in, like, computer systems or CRM systems, but that business of change is so important. And how to attract, manage, use money, like that, whether it's investment, customers, or donors, the money side is so important. And then I would say the second thing, the technical skills, apart from, like, you don't have to do an MBA. I'm not pro or anti-MBA, but it's like the business. Then the second thing is really trying to understand, this is so hard. And same thing if you do a PhD, like, what is the problem you're solving? And, there's this drawing, if you do a PhD, it's like there's a circle inside a circle inside a circle inside a circle inside a circle, and that's the little dot you have to find. And it's the same thing with whatever social enterprise nonprofit, like, what's the problem that you are helping to address for whoever your customer or beneficiaries are? And so it's like you can't build democracy. Like, you can't do economic development. You might say, like, I want to do economic development for youth between 18 and 24 who live in this part of the city, and this is the reason. Like, so you've got to find, like, that specific focus, at least to start with. And then communication skills, but it goes way beyond verbal communications. So communication, we're all our own platforms now. So how do you communicate on social media? How do you do data visualization? How do you do video? So communication skills. And then often I think it's very important to have one or more sectoral areas of expertise. So if you want to be a change maker, I don't think it's enough to be like, know about change. You got to be like, I want to be a change maker focused on, agricultural development with, coffee, or like small scale. Like, you've got to have a sectoral expertise. So is it youth economic development? Is it reducing gender-based violence? Is it on governance? Is it, is it on public participation? So you don't need to become only one sectoral. And then the last thing is, everyone says, I don't know where this comes from, is the number one skill of the future is the ability to keep learning. And so anyone who thinks they're going to learn, whether it's a formal degree program or on their own, and be done, those are the people who are going to have a really hard time thriving in this market. And the ones who are continuously learning. And then also say, like, the market is brutal. And like the future of work, one vision, it's going to be wonderful. Everyone's going to find their path and passion and do social impact. I hope that's the case. Another version, we're all going to become gigified with no benefits, no security, no public policy that supports people. And like, we're going to be working 24 hours a day just to sustain it. And apart from like the top, let's say 3 or 4%. So it's also understanding the larger dynamics of where the global economy is going. We talk to people all the time, and I'm not saying we're perfect. We have a lot of room, but it's like we talk to people at events online, in person. We do user feedback surveys. We talk to a lot of partners all over the world, who are doing similar things. So, and I read all the time, like, books, blogs. So it's like that kind of continually interfacing with people. And then also we do, these weekly career chats, podcasts. So we're just always learning and hearing from people about what their problems are. And then it's also like we test it. And like, if we were, our career chats are taking off, we're not going viral. So like, I think if we were absolutely solving the problem people have, we'd be like 10 times bigger. But like people keep coming back. So part of it is like, if you offer it, does anybody use it? Like we want to start offering courses. Will anybody pay for it? I don't know. But it's like what we're offering seems to be, and then the feedback people give us like consistently is, and we could be better at evaluating our overall impact, but the stories and impact we get, and it's often I'll meet someone, and maybe they're not on our platform now, but like we just had a call with someone. She's like, "Oh, I was on your platform 10 years ago. It was the most like." So often we hear like some people are on it now, and some people are like, "Oh, I used it 5 years ago. It's like it gave me this." So those kind of things that just come up in conversation. Content is king. So it's like we do some marketing, but you providing valuable content, and that both means like, some research, some writing, some videos, but also just constant opportunities that we curate. So that's the number one thing. And we have a great developer here who's also brilliant at marketing. So he's pushed us to be more systematic. I hate systems sometimes. So we're a little better, but it's like provide content that is of value to yourself and to others. And so we've done a tiny bit of paid advertising, very little. Our developer wants us to do more. I had a chat today, but not a huge organization, but I'm like, here's what you do, here's what we do, let's collaborate. So it's like if it's like-minded and ethical, so we do that a lot across our partnerships, and that kind of amplifies us. Be curious and be humble. So I'd say, I think the older I get, like I do know more, but I realize how much I don't know. So whether it's your own challenge or someone else's you're hoping to work with, like just be humble and curious. And then I'd say the biggest thing is like anybody can make change anywhere. So whatever generation you're in, like don't wait to make change. Like you don't have to be 40 or 30 or 20. Like you can make change at any age. And the idea like you have to be a professional to advance systematic change, like it's like you don't have to wait. But on the same hand, that be humble, be curious, just be aware there's risks, and don't be naive about undertaking change, particularly if it's something sensitive like gender dynamics or economic injustice or racism. Making change is long-term, and that there can be backlashes, so be personally prepared for that. And like be conscious of the actions you take, whether you're an insider, partial insider, outsider. Just be aware like what's ethical and appropriate in your role. Do the change and don't wait, but also be sensitive about it.